we wanted it to be a pod system where you
Yeah.
could take any of our capsules, put them in really easily, and create like a fairly simple experience for the user where it was a one button click. And then all of the ability to customize the device to your skin type or your treatment modalities exists on our paired app. So that's on iPhone or Android. And the device is intended to be as simple as possible to use, and you can use it out of the box, as you know. But then if you want to do anything more advanced or custom, it would be through the app and it would pair to the device and you can put it into specific targeted modes.
Okay, so I did not even know that there was a pairing to the device. So maybe I'm missing out on here because I'm a person and I'm bad, Amber. I open it right up, I pop something in and I'm like, let's go, basically not even reading the directions. So in my first capsule, so I started with the lips. I have two things here. I've got the lip plumper and the hydro filler, but I know, how many formulations do you have?
So we have 6 formulations right now.
Okay. So I can only talk about the 2 that I've talked about, but we can talk about the other ones. You'll see here, and one of the things that I do know that you do is that with these capsules, you offer a recycling program.
We do.
So you can see here, I started to pop the used ones in here because then you can send them back. Now, the first one, I have to be honest, I popped it in, nothing happened. Now, I read that I was supposed to shake it because after I was like, wait, huh? I mean, I felt the air going, nothing came out. Then I went back around the directions and I was like, oh, I was supposed to shake it a little bit. So I put it in. The second one worked. I want to just start with the first thing that I noticed with this device. When it comes to having a microfine mist, it hit me like, is this safe to be inhaling? That really kind of, I was like, whoa. And that's why I didn't make it through the whole month of trials, because I was like, I want to hear, have they done any studies about this? And is it safe to be breathing this in?
We did. We've done a lot
Okay.
of studies about it. So back in 2020, before we had launched on the market, during the COVID epidemic, because we were a medical device and we were government funded, we sort of exist in a database of government funded technologies in that sector. And one of the calls that came out was actually to see whether our technology could be adapted to deliver drugs into the lungs. This was a huge problem, as you recall, at the time.
Right.
And we went ahead and we did those tests and we discovered that because of the particle size we're generating, it does not get into the lungs. And that's a standardized test that we do, which is called cascade impaction studies. It's
Okay.
basically the gold standard. It's done with a third-party lab. And really what they look at is if you take the device and you huff it, like you're actively inhaling, can you get particle deposition in the lower airways? And you cannot. And the reason for that is really comes down to the size of the molecule we create, or the size of the particle we create. It either evaporates before it gets that far in, or it's going to hit your mucosa. It's not actually going to get into your lungs at all.
Okay. I mean, listen, I'm going to be honest. Like, I've inhaled worse and we'll just leave it at that. But I was
Yeah.
like, now in my older age, I'm like, maybe this, isn't so good. And I've seen people, again, I only tried the collagen, which has a very lovely rose scent, and the lip filler. But there's no way around not breathing this in. I've seen people with the retinol online who were coughing a little bit.
I think it's likely the glycolic actually,
Oh, the
where we
glycolic. Okay.
yeah, where we see that. And that is a formulation that has an AHA in there. It's not fun to inhale and it has a little bit of a cult following. So for people who have acne, like if you have a big cystic pimple and you put the device on its blemish treatment mode and you use it, people see resolution of that really, really quickly. And the best way to do it is if you hold the device immediately against it. You're not really creating that absorption and you do sort of like spot treatments, right? But if you're trying to use glycolic and you're going over your whole face and you do like open your mouth and get a little bit of it in, yeah, it absolutely will not be a fun experience. And that doesn't surprise me that that's the case.
So, because now listen, I really must have screwed this up because I was not aware of the app. So maybe I wasn't doing the right programming. But what I understood was that it's about a minute long cycle with this spray mechanism. So, I mean, it's really hard to hold your breath for a minute.
No, it's start stop on the device actually. So
Oh,
it press to turn on, press to turn off
right.
on
Yeah.
the
Oh,
hardware.
mine, so, okay. So I pressed it to turn on, but I felt like it ran for about a minute and then
It'll
turned
keep
off.
it'll turn off automatically after a period of time, after about a minute, which is typically when capsules are emptied. But I think that's a good learning for us to be a lot more prescriptive about some of these formulations. So for glycolic, we probably like we're redoing our packaging. So
Okay.
including that start stop sort of and use it primarily for spot treatment, run it for 5 seconds so you're not having to hold your breath, right? I think
So
that would
you,
probably make a big
okay,
difference.
yes. And listen, this is why I love to do this podcast. And this was, I think, I really want to celebrate you for coming on as a brand, because I told you ahead of time, hey, I've got some things that made me pause a little bit. But I think that it's really admirable that you're coming on and addressing those head on. So with these treatments, you actually recommend a start stop method. And had I downloaded the app, would that have been a little bit more clear?
I think to an extent, I think for lips especially though, so the product is called 17-volt lip filler or lip plumper, and it's because the pump on the device is typically running at a default voltage, and we actually
Okay.
ramp it all the way up to 17 volts. And we do that through the app. There's a lip plumping mode. So if you use it on your lips, I would be genuinely shocked in its default mode if you saw any improvement, maybe a little softening. Right, exactly.
Okay. And now I was going to be honest with you. I was like, because so I bite my lips, I lick my lips. My lips, I always kid around with my husband. I'm like, it's like kissing fine grit sandpaper. So when I got this, I was like, yes, I'm so pumped about this. But I was going to tell you, I put it on the first one, nothing came out.
Of course,
And
yeah.
then the second, third, and fourth, and I did it twice, and I was like, I'm not really noticing anything, but hey, there we go. I guess I'll have to go back and try it the correct way.
Yeah, I'd love to hear how that works out.
So good to know. So listen, hey, listen, I wish I would have known, I read the little instruction card, but I don't think that I knew enough to um download the app. Got it. So this is really meant to be paired with the app for the best use. Okay. So in terms of safety, we covered that. Another thing people were mentioning and that I kind of noticed myself too was a little bit of like the pod leakage. Right.
Right.
So you use this a little bit. And actually you can see because I used it before. I don't know if you can see here, but you see like a
Yeah,
little bit of
yeah.
this drip here. What are thoughts on that in terms of is that something
Yeah,
you're
I think
addressing in the new device?
it is. Like that particular factor, that dribble is something we're very much impacting and hope to solve with this new device. But with the current one, it's gravity fed, and both devices are like that. That isn't changing. So when you hold it, and you hold it as sort of horizontally, like you have to kind of, lean all the way back. That's the best way to minimize that particular experience,
Right.
with the dribbling. And it's also the reason why, as a company, we made the decision to quote overfill our capsules a little bit as well, because we know that there's going to be some loss from that. And we want you to get the appropriate amount of the ingredient into your skin. And so we do account for both that dribbling impact as well as the spray off you're going to get into the air. Like not all of it is going to get,
Right.
into your skin. It will spray away. Some of it will just be on top. And so those are all calculations we made when we do create our formulations and fill it to that particular capacity. But I completely understand why somebody would not want to see anything kind of leaking or dribbling out of it. And that's exactly why we spent about a year fixing it in our next gen device.
Okay. So I think a lot of this can bring me to my third point. And number one, I feel like thank you for explaining how to use it because again, I took this out, I put a capsule in and I kind of was like this, but I noticed I'm like, oh, it would kind of start to puff off. But if I tilt it a little bit, so maybe this is something to be good used laying down. I don't know. Maybe you want to think about like a nose plug, a nose plug. I don't know if that's too weird. I know when I go get spray tanned, they give you nose plugs.
Yeah, we could do a Droplette branded nose plug that comes in.
I mean, it's not the prettiest thing, but I listen, these days it's kind of like we all want to be really careful about what it is that we're inhaling. All right. And then the third caveat that I really felt that this kind of got where I saw the negative reviews and listen, there were a lot of positive reviews out there too, was the price, right? Clearly this is a high-tech device. Somewhere in there, you have to pay for the science behind it. But is there any thoughts on price, right? Because I think the device itself was $299.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a really good point.